Hey Whidbey, welcome to Local Whidbey with Magsy, where we celebrate the people and stories that make our island the incredible place we all call home. And today, we've got a good one for you. We're heading straight into the heart of craft spirits and community pride with the new dynamic behind Whidbey Distillery, Jonathan Bauer and Mike Huffman. These two are shaking things up literally. As the new owners of Whidbey Distillery, Jonathan and Mike are bringing fresh energy, bold ideas, and a whole lot of passion to this already iconic local gem. Known for their award-winning blackberry and Loganberry liqueur and spirits that are as smooth as they are unforgettable, Whidbey Distillery is stepping into an exciting new chapter under their leadership. Today we'll chat with Jonathan and Mike about what drew them to the world of craft distilling, their vision for the distillery's future, and how they plan to keep the Whidbey Island spirit alive, both in the bottle and in the community. Whether you're a craft spirit enthusiast or just supporting local, this conversation is going to inspire and maybe even make you a little thirsty. Typically I have one guest, but today I have two. Because I only have two mics, it is most important that you hear them. I may sound a bit in the background, but that's okay. We're not here for perfection, but a great story. So grab a shot glass or a mug, we don't judge. Sit back and get ready to meet the new faces of Whidbey Distillery. Let's toast to creativity, community, and a whole lot of deliciousness. Hey guys, I'm so glad to meet both of you. So you're Mike and you're
Jonathan.
So what did you think of that intro?
Well, it was true.
Yeah. I think it was great. We should just make a cocktail and call it a day.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Okay. So let's start with some history here. I want you guys to tell the listener how you both got involved in Whidbey Distillery, like your origin story. So whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I moved to Whidbey Island in 2014. I was just living on the other side of the water, and my wife's brother was out here. We came out to kind of be with him and help him out for a little bit. I was working remote, taking the ferry half the week, and my wife's family had a vineyard in California, and so we liked wine, and we did a little wine tour on Whidbey Island. Mm-hmm. And one of the wineries we stopped at said, there's this little distillery down the road that was fairly new, and I was curious about distillation. We came to Whidbey Island Distillery. I met the founders, Bev and Steve Heising, who had started this little retirement hobby. Steve showed me his incredible still that he designed and engineered from the ground up. I asked him some questions about it, and he said, "You should come hang out." I said, "Okay."
And he is, in case someone's listening who doesn't know who you were talking about.
Yeah, Steve and Bev Heising are original founders who started the distillery in 2010. Steve's a retired aerospace scientist, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, and one of the nicest guys. And when he started, he bought a little traditional 50-gallon pot still that wasn't going to work for what we do here. We didn't want to just buy bulk alcohol or, have the resources for the big 2-story industrial still we needed. Mm-hmm. And Steve is smart, resourceful, and he had an idea of designing his own unique still, and we still use that design today. It makes incredible spirits. We run it 24 hours a day for months at a time. We now have 2 of them, and proof's in the proof. We've got some really nice award-winning spirits that are distilled on those unique stills.
Okay. So you started...
Yeah, so, he invited me to come hang out. I did. They needed some help. I had like a retail background and kind of small business background. I was ready for a transition, and I was their first full-time employee, and quickly became their general manager. Was with them for just over 10 years. Yeah. And then a year later, this crazy guy walked in that we found on a Facebook posting that he did. I'll let him tell the story. But,
Tell your origin story.
So mine's more of a love affair that started a long time ago. When I started drinking whiskey, I just fell in love with it, and it turned into something more than just like, it's what I drink on Saturdays. I really wanted to learn about it, and so I started working as a bartender, and I got some exposure that way, but you really don't get a lot of what they call SKUs, which is just products. So, unless you work at a whiskey bar, you're only exposed to maybe 4 or 5. And so then I started working at liquor stores. I ended up in Scotland, like developing my palate and going on a Scotch tour. I'm originally from Colorado. I moved out here. I worked for the Liquor Control Board, managing a liquor store until they transitioned to private. And then I ended up at a liquor store curating their whiskey collection. So we had one of the first, like, all Washington local sections, and people would bring their whiskey in. I'd taste it. We'd talk about it, figure out where it fit in the store or if it did. And so I was curating those sorts of things and doing that at the store, and I enjoyed that. But then they sold the store. The owners sold the store, and the new owners changed the model. And so I said, well, I'm not just going to be a clerk. So at that point, I had already started brewing beer because that's legal. So I was brewing beer at home, and I said, I'm just going to make the jump, and I'm either going to distill whiskey or I'm going to change the complete direction of the way my life is going and do something totally different. So I found the Distillers Guild, Washington State Distillers Guild website. I was a little confused. I went on there and I was like, oh, I can go talk to distillers. That's great.
I don't think you can distill it, right?
You can. It's illegal. Yeah. You can't do that. So I was like, oh, I'll go
Unless
on.
You're from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I found their Facebook page because I wasn't going to pay $200 to be a member, and I just posted on there, I'll scrub your floors and clean your toilets. I'll do whatever you want as long as you teach me how to make whiskey. Okay. And Steve and Bev and Mike, they were the only ones that responded. They said, yeah, come up and have a conversation with us.
Yeah, there's always work to do, Yeah. And we just like the spirit of it. We're always looking for good, hardworking people that want to know what we do and are passionate about it. And the post was kind of clear about that. So we said, come on in.
So what do you guys think, being in the distilling business, what makes this distillery different, or also Whidbey like?
Yeah, there's quite a few things, I think.
Spill the tea. Number
one, we're in Whidbey Island, which is, everyone knows is a magical place. We're on this beautiful 9-acre property with beautiful well water, which is key for what we do. We're in a funky little building, which just kind of feels like Whidbey Island. And then we kind of embrace the history and ingredients of what's around us.
Yeah, I think, to emphasize what Mike said, the history of the building you're in right now, this was actually the main residence for the people who lived here before.
Yeah, it looks like a daylight basement.
That's exactly what it is. Yep. It's become the bunker, and it's Bunker Rye because people drive up and see it tucked into the hill. Yeah. And there's history with bunkers on the island and things like that. But this is the growth chart, right behind you here.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
so 5 kids living down here. And as Mike said, they originally actually bought the property for the water. It's a really good water source. And kind of their plan, I think, without thinking everything through, was they were going to tear this building down and build a big warehouse. And, they found out it was concrete, which is a pain to demo and really expensive. And a friend of theirs, Lou Walker, who the bunker is named after, he convinced them, it's kind of the Whidbey Island way. You work with what you have. And so they converted this whole property, Building B, what we call it, that building up there where we do all our brewing and long-term barrel storage. That was a 4-post barn.
Oh, okay.
So they walled that in. That's where they parked the tractor. The powerhouse, the powerhouse would distribute all the power. That was the slaughterhouse where they killed the cows and whatever they were butchering. And then the bunkhouse up top there, that was a barn. Okay. So they converted.
So you guys also have a year's worth of food.
You have to.
Year's worth of rations. Yeah.
Rations. So, between that and then just embracing everything that, is around us, it's so Whidbey.
So you guys had no problem leaping into or leaning into ownership Or was there any type of hesitation, or how did that come about?
Yeah, for us, we had been here for almost a decade, both of us. And, Bev and Steve were great mentors to us. And when they started, it was a retirement hobby. And they were pretty upfront from us from the get-go that, hey, we don't want to do this forever. And we'd like it to move on. And we think you guys are the right people for it. So we had been kind of planning and preparing, but just like anything in life, certain things kind of have to fall into place, and, we have to be ready. And we kind of saw an opportunity. It took a long time. It was a long process for us, but if Steve taught me anything, it's resiliency. You just keep at it until you get what you want, and that's kind of what we did.
So knowing that this really wasn't a startup,
right.
Did it feel like one?
No.
So yeah, your journey is a little different than someone that was starting from scratch. That's for sure.
It's different. I mean, it is exciting and new for us, but we've already got a good history. We've got good products. There's nothing broken to fix.
Right.
But we get to add on to that and keep it going and carry on a tradition that, the community's kind of fallen in love with. So, right. Yeah, we thought about, well, sure, we could start our own and start from scratch, but what a shame to do that when we've got everything perfect right here, right in front of us. And in the name.
Yeah. When you start the process, you have to think all those things through. Like, hey, what are we getting into? Would it be better to start a business? But for me, the day that I interviewed here, I said, I want to, my family has this old ranch and I'd love to start a distillery. And so I always wanted to do that. And that was always in mind. And then after a decade of working together, we've developed a really neat partnership, and it just didn't make any sense when you have something here that's so good, that, everybody kind of working towards the same goal of like, hey, let's put you in place to take it over.
What has been the most rewarding part of your journey since you became owners?
Well, I would say probably, signing the papers. I mean, it was like Mike said, it was a lot of roadblocks came up. There was just it took a long time, a lot longer than I think anybody really thought it would. And especially, you start to get that feeling like it's going to happen, and then it doesn't, and you're like, oh boy, you got to ride the wave and like, okay, come back down. We got to keep doing the thing, and go left if we need to, and figure out the path. So between that and then we had this big party, which you can tell them about.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a cool thing. Is a couple weeks after we signed papers, we said let's throw a bash, and kind of like a passing of the guard. The whole thing was because we've been with Bev and Steve so long, it really felt like a family kind of deal, and we had our distillery family, and so we said, okay, we're gonna throw a party. Bev and Steve will be here. They'll sign bottles for people. Aww. Bev's a musician. Jonathan's been in a band with her. So she invited a bunch of her musician friends to come play music. And we put it out there, and it was awesome. We had so many people show up. It was neat to see their longtime friends and customers and people that we've developed relationships over the years come in and tell us congratulations and that they're so happy that it's going to stay around. Yeah. And it was kind of just made everything feel right, and that we made the right choice. And so that for me is kind of one of the proudest moments of the whole thing. Yeah.
So how do you guys feel you support the community?
Well, I think they support us as much as we support them. But I think probably the greatest story to tell about that is the Loganberry liqueur. When Bev and Steve started the distillery, they weren't from the island, and they had no idea about like the heritage and history of Loganberries and Loganberry liqueur. Their intention was just to make whiskey. Right. And somebody came in the door and said, oh, no, if you're going to start a distillery, you have to make another Loganberry liqueur. And they brought an old bottle of Whidbey's, and Bev and Steve tasted it and kind of made it in the same spirit. So it's probably the best thing that we've ever done, and it paid to do all the whiskey production that we've done, up to this point. So we're
uniqueness too.
Yeah. I mean, there used to be a Loganberry festival. That Greenbank Farm was the biggest Loganberry farm in the U.S. So there's just so much heritage, and that was, I think, the first time, but definitely not the last, where basically the community screamed out to us and said, "We want you to do this," and they did. So.
Yeah, and I think, like Jonathan said, the community supports us more than we probably support the community. But one, we're here every day, and we're open every day. So, we're open door. If you want to come in, you want to taste, you want to see the stills, we'll do any of that for you. Yeah.
Because everyone's assumption when they do business with someone is we're supporting you by giving you our money and, that type of thing. There's this overwhelming, that's who's supporting. But when businesses come into a community, especially a smaller one like this, you're supporting them as well.
Yeah.
Because you do employ people, you buy things from here and things like that. So that's why I asked that.
Yeah. And we do that. I mean, all our fruit comes from Grace Marsh Farms in Squim. We're trying to narrow that circle as much as possible.
And I'm sure you donate to raffles.
All the time.
Yeah. We donate.
We can only donate to nonprofits, but we do to pretty much everyone that asks. And like Jonathan's was, kind of getting at is we get wine from all of our wineries here on the island, and that's what we distill for our base. We give them alcohol back in trade. They turn that into beautiful fortified wines and ports. And, and then, like I said, we're open, but, we treat every customer that comes in here like their family, and that's what they've done to us, and we try to give it back to them as much as we can too.
So when you guys first started in this business, you said you'd been in retail for a while.
Yeah.
What is the most surprising thing that you've learned about clients and customers and working with them? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of like the golden rule of customer service. You just treat them how you'd want to be treated. And what's nice about what we do here is we make a really good product that sells itself. We don't have to sell it. All we have to do is pour it for people, let them taste it, and then it does the work. So it's a pretty easy sales job, right? Especially when you pour free samples for people. But yeah,
I think that's great too. Something like this, a business like this, you're not bending towards the trends,
right?
Like other retail establishments have to.
Right.
People don't buy from them, so that's always.
We've always kind of stayed true to what we do, and I think the biggest adjustment for me was, I had a sales background, but not really a manufacturing one. And, we do it all. We're a manufacturer. We do sales. We distribute everything. And so you learn to wear a lot of hats. And but it's fun to see, fruit and bags of grain turn into a finished product. Have people taste it and love it.
Distilling bloopers, funny stories. Stuff happens.
It's real life.
I mean,
that's what people want to hear. They want to hear that real life stories.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that happens to us is we started really small, so we grow through all the steps of the ladder. It's not like walking into a giant facility. So I know one of the things that happened. We started on a little 20-gallon brew system, and we went up to 100 gallons, and I don't know that it's really funny, but when we transitioned, it was just a kind of a different thing. And you had this learning experience where we got a lot of stuck mashes. And so you'd be there, and you're, none of the wort is coming out because the mash is so thick, and you're trying to figure out ways to get your whiskey mash out into the fermenter. And it's all these little things, but it's never really stood in our way. The great thing about Steve is he's an engineer. So if you look in the still room, the first still he built, he designed it on paper, and then I think he built it, and it was too tall for the room, so he just cut a hole in the ceiling and put a paint bucket up in there. And he's like, it just goes up in there. Yeah. And so we got to spend a decade with him learning that. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes from him that he's written on the ceiling in there, it's not trial and error, it's trial and success. You just keep doing it until you figure it out. And we've had lots of growing pains, like Jonathan said. We're still small, but we started real small. And one of the funny ones that I like is we had an employee working for a while that, every day we check the stills, we proof the alcohol, we dump it to a larger container, and we've got different varieties. And, it's all crystal clear. It all looks the same. And he, of course, poured some whiskey into a brandy container, and which for us at the time was kind of devastating because we only make so much, and now we just lost this batch. But we said, well, it's okay. We're turning into something. We've now put it on some oak, and instead of whiskey or brandy, someday we'll have this brisky, this hybrid product that's going to be beautiful. And yeah, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. And we're really big on, hands-on learning and figuring it out. Yeah.
I get that. Now, this next question, I don't ask everybody this because it's kind of goofy. But if you had any celebrity, and the reason why I say this is because so many celebrities now have their own wines, their whiskeys, their tequilas. If anyone at all in the industry that would endorse and say, Bunker's the best whiskey I've ever had, who would that be?
It's Jonathan. Jonathan's a celebrity. He didn't know that. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
He used to be in a band. And
I've already endorsed it, so I mean, already there.
Okay.
I think the easy answer is, Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Marketing genius, and he's already got a track record in our industry. So, but there's some other people. I think if I was going to go with a woman, I'd go with Dame Helen Mirren.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. She's all sophistication and class. And I think she'd be a great.
Okay. So each one of you can tell me this. If you have a most significant, influential person in your life, or it could have been a story. Because, I've asked some people, they're like, nobody. I'm like, okay, well, how about a story of something that was influential? And so that's always a good thing to ask too.
Sure.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah. I have to start with my family.
Right,
I have a really good family. Everyone's hardworking, and then of course my wife and my kids are my inspiration. But probably the best answer for what I'm doing here has to be Bev and Steve, our founders. Right. They were incredible mentors to us. Like I said, Steve is one of the smartest guys I've ever met, but he was a really good teacher, and he knew from day one that he wanted this to keep going, and he was smart. A lot of people will hide their secrets. Steve would, he was an open book and tell you everything. And then Bev, she's work hard, play hard. She's always on the go. She's a musician, and she is passionate, hardworking, and no one would slack around here when Bev's around.
Sounds like my type of person.
Yeah, totally. And it's, we were, working for them for 10 years. I came in here thinking I knew everything, of course, and quickly learned I didn't, and learned some patience and all that stuff too. But it was really valuable time, and we could have maybe done this sooner, but because of the process taking so long, I think it just really, again, it was kind of perfect timing and meant to be. Yeah.
It ends up being that way.
Yeah, and it's the same for me. Obviously, my parents instilled a great work ethic in me, and I think I wouldn't be where I am without it, because it's a lot to get through. But one of my favorite, quotes to think about with Steve is that when I got here, I said, teach me everything there is to know about making whiskey. And after, I think, 2 or 3 years, Steve came to me one time and he's like, you be careful what you ask for, because, like Mike said, he's been an open book, but he, taught me everything from, electrician to plumbing, all the things that are involved. There's so much, exposed me to coding for, the stuff we're doing on the back end, operating the stills. And really, we build those from the ground up. So it really was the start of everything, project management. And Steve's an incredible teacher, and he's a super genius, and being able to work under him, it's just been one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah, when I first started, Steve's like this Excel wizard.
Right.
He
was there when it wasn't called Excel. I can't remember, but it was originally something else.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's way back.
Yeah. And and I thought I knew some Excel, right? And he pulls up this sheet, and it's tracking live data in real time and stuff, and I'm overwhelmed, right, pretty quick, and you can see it in my eyes. And he's like, don't worry, I'm bringing it to this party. I'm going to introduce you to everyone, and you're not going to remember anyone's names.
Yeah.
But we're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to reintroduce you, and over time, you're going to start remembering who they are and what these things do. And I said, okay, I can deal with this. I can learn. He's a very reasonable, smart person, and has a good way of breaking down complex things on a real tangible level that you can understand.
Okay, so let's talk about the island a little bit. Do you guys have a hidden gem or a secret spot or someplace that you just love here?
Well, there's lots of them, but can't really give them all away. But
Pick one.
I think one of my little favorites is just right down the road from us. There's these little Trestland Trails.
Trestland Trails.
Trestland Trails,
okay.
yeah, and just cool little walk in the woods. And they have everything from this small little ADA loop that you can do to deep back in the woods. Really pretty, really well kept. Not too busy, so don't tell too many people. But yeah, it's a good one.
For me, it's not really a secret, but it's Double Bluff Beach. So when I first started working here, I'll spill the tea. I don't actually live on the island.
Right.
I live in Bellevue.
But you worked here forever.
But I've worked here, for 10 years. So when I first worked here, Steve and Bev were very concerned about the commute. They didn't think I could handle that every day, which, I had been doing that with my dad growing up. So, but anyway, there's a little cottage on the property, and they're like, well, why don't you stay a couple of days a week away from your wife? And that way you won't have to commute, and it won't be so hard on you, and you won't quit after 6 months. Which they kicked me out after 6 months anyway. But I would go to Double Bluff all the time because there was this nice sandy beach. Somebody told me about it. And actually one of the employees lived there.
Okay.
She rented a house on the beach. So I would sometimes just go over there and we'd sit out in the lawn and chat and stuff. So we'd go like midnight kayaking. Yeah. So I really fell in love with that spot. It was kind of my place to go and watch the sunset.
I'll give
not a big secret, but
one more good one, which is a good local plug too, is Skein and Tipple, which is our little speakeasy on the south end. It's a yarn store by day, craft cocktails in the back by night, and maybe it's not a hidden gem anymore. I think word's out on it.
Someone told me, the owners didn't tell me, somebody told me, so I don't know if this is completely true, but I was told that when they were trying to get the permit, some were told that they hadn't had entertainment. Yeah. So they had someone sitting there knitting.
Yeah, part of their license.
It's a cabaret license.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so because they don't do food.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have to have entertainment. And so, entertainment can be someone knitting, I guess, and you're fine.
I didn't know why they had entertainment, but someone sitting there knitting. That's hilarious. Yeah. When we went, there was actual someone singing.
Yes, usually someone playing music in the corner.
Such a cute idea.
Yeah. Cute little place, great people, really good, strong cocktails. Yeah.
Yep.
So here is an important question that I'm adding to every interview I do. I hope you thought about it. But as the community continues to grow and evolve, what do you hope to happen in the next 5 to 10 years in growth and in evolution of the island?
Well, I don't think you can stop progress. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would like the island to stay the magical place that it is, but figure out how to grow. And I think one of the things I'd like to see the island start to think about getting younger. Yeah. It's really hard for young professionals to live on the island. Okay. So figuring out a way to do that adds a little vitality to the island, I think, and brings in, new ideas and creativity. And so I would love to see that happen.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that already starting to happen. A lot of, people moved out here when things were crazy and they wanted to escape. And when you move out here, you just figure out a way to make it work and make a living. And, I've got 2 kids and there's lots of young families out here, but, it's still not the majority. And I think, seeing it go that way because it does. It makes the island more special when there's, young creative people figuring out how to make it even more magical.
Well, I have to tell you guys that's the overwhelming thing that almost everyone I've been.
Well, I think, the interesting thing is I think there is a little bit, you can feel it kind of changing because one of the saddest things in a place like this is when, a business that's been there for 20 or 30 years just closes and goes away because people retire and nobody wants to take it over.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a little bit of that change. I mean, with us, taking over Whidbey Distillery, but there's other examples. I think Pickles just sold, right? Or is selling. You might have to edit that out if it's not ready to be public knowledge.
No, I'm pretty sure it is.
But
I'm sure I saw it too.
yeah, and there's a few other examples of that too. So it's just some of these old businesses that people don't want to go away, but they don't have the youth to like come in and hold it up in the next generation to kind of take it on. So the sooner we get that figured out, the better off the island will be, I think.
Yeah.
So any lessons the community has taught you?
If you have a strong vision and an idea, the island will get it done for you.
Good to know.
Everybody, it's true island culture. Everybody wants to support each other, and so obviously in the world where we have competition, other businesses, but we also want to support each other. So if you've got something that you want to get done, there's somebody on the island who can help you get it done. Yeah. So.
Yeah, lots of support, and it is that kind of rising tide raises all ships. And if you put something good out there, there's lots of talented people out here that know how to make things happen. You build it, people will come.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously are on social media, but tell everyone exactly where you are here on the island.
Yeah, so we're on the south end of Whidbey Island. We're about 10 minutes off the ferry, right up the highway, and we're on a little 9-acre farm that's just
right up from Pickles.
Right up from Pickles, down the road from Spoil Dog Winery.
Right. Yeah.
And and we're here every day, like I said. And so we do complimentary tastings every day. And if you want to see the stills or get a tour, we'll do that for you as well. And, we're just maybe 10 minutes outside of downtown Langley too. So we're kind of close to a lot of things, but tucked away in our own little spot here too, which kind of keeps it special. What do you like to say about being a hidden gem?
You're not a hidden gem if you're not hidden. Yeah. So we're not just right out there for the world to see. Yeah.
I like just being a gem.
Oh, yeah. We had an idea for a different product. I can't remember what it was, and I said something like that. So can we spell it J-I-N?
Yeah. Right. Well, I appreciate both of you giving me time and being on my podcast and being supportive, like you said, that someone's doing something new, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a perfect example, right? You built this, and how's it going so far?
So far, great.
Yeah.
We'll see Wednesday.
All right, perfect.
Looking forward to it.
Maybe I'll wait till I get some more listeners before I put you on. No, just kidding.
Hey, either way, we'll have to kick it off too.
Well, that's the beauty of podcasting, because you could listen to it,
anytime.
a year from now. Yeah. There's podcasts I listen to now that have been on for years. I just discovered them.
Yeah, right.
And I listen to all of them.
So. The internet. It's all archived.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a wrap on another episode of Local Whidbey with Magsy. Whether you're all about island life or just island bound in spirit, I hope you all are audacious islanders. Yes, that is a plug for my merch. Thanks for tuning in and celebrating the people, places, and magic that make Whidbey Island so special. Don't forget to share the love, tell a friend, leave a review if you have something positive to say, and follow along for more stories from our audacious island. Until next time, keep it quirky, keep it local, and keep loving Whidbey.